Have a seat, have a seat. Take a load off your feet. Nice job, sit in pike position on the mat. Okay, great job on reviewing those travels that we were working on. Today, we are going to be working on balancing, and then I hope we get to work on jumping and landing at the end of class, because that is a lot of fun. It's an important thing for you to learn how to do. But I wanted to make sure that we hit some balancing, because balancing is very important. If you didn't know how to balance, you wouldn't even be able to walk down the hallway. Because when you're a baby, do babies know how to walk yet? No, because they're not strong enough and they don't have the balance yet. So when you start to grow and get older, you start to get stronger, you get that strength, and you start to get more balance. You start to learn how to move your body. Okay, so when you're balancing today, balancing is different from traveling. Can anybody raise your hand and tell me what is the difference between balancing and traveling? If you could tell me how they are different, what would you say? What do you think, Claire? Okay, yeah, and when you're traveling, you're moving, right? So when we were traveling across the mat, we were moving from one place to another. When we're balancing today, when you do a balance, you're going to try to keep your body still like a statue. Everybody say stillness. Stillness. And when you do a balance, I want you to try to keep it still for 5 seconds. So you're going to try to see if you can keep your body still for 5 Mississippis, all right? Now, today we're going to be doing some different balances. We're going to start with some easy ones. We're going to play a game called This or That. So the way we play this game is, I'm going to show you 2 balances, and I want you to try both of them. I'm only going to give you about 30 seconds, so you need to stay focused. You need to try to do that balance and make sure that you hold your body still. If your body looks like this, is that stillness? No. You want to try to use your muscles, use your strength, and hold your body still, and also try to extend your arms and stretch them out nice and straight. You'll see the picture on the TV. We're going to try two different balances, and then I'm going to ask you to raise your hand and vote which one you thought was the easiest and which one you thought was the hardest. And I want you to be able to tell me why you thought that, okay? I want you to be able to tell me why you thought that. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right, friends, you're going to have about 30 seconds to try them. First one are the easy ones. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, nice job. Nice job. Have a seat, pike position on your mat. Raise your hand if you thought the air chair was the hardest. Raise your hand if you thought the crisscross was the hardest. All right, so we have some different opinions. Is it okay to have different opinions? Yes, because we're all different, so we can think different things, okay? So just make sure you're thinking what you think, not what everybody else thinks, okay? Now, one of the balances, the thing that it requires most was flexibility. Raise your hand if you can tell me which balance do you think requires more flexibility? Caden, what do you think? Okay, so air chair was harder, right? But was it because it requires more flexibility? What does the air chair require? We got 3 things: flexibility, balance, and strength. Flexibility, balance, and strength. So raise your hand and tell me which one requires more flexibility. More flexibility. Madison? Crisscross, because you have to bend your legs up and cross them. If you're not very flexible, you won't be able to do that. Now, which one requires more strength? Molly?
Air chair.
The air chair, because you're using those muscles when you go down. If you're not very strong, your legs are going to start shaking. You're going to start moving all around because you have to be strong to be able to hold your body still. Make sense? All right, let's try the next 2. Warrior or the plank. Awesome job, friends. Awesome job. Have a seat. Okay, raise your hand if you thought the sitting toe touch was the hardest. Raise your hand if you thought sunshine was the hardest. Okay, what was the most important thing for the sitting toe touch out of strength, balance, and flexibility? What do you think? Juliana, what do you think? Flexibility, because when you reach down and try to touch your toe, you gotta be very flexible. Is that person's leg bent or is it straight?
Straight.
It's straight. So if you were reaching down and touching your toe with your leg bent, and you straighten your leg out, you'll be able to tell if you're very flexible or not. That's like when we do that sit and reach, and we try to reach down towards our toes. That's a measure of our flexibility. Make sense? Okay. All right, we're gonna move into some medium balances. These are yellow balances. So for these, I want you to be thinking about what is it about these that makes them harder than the green ones that we just did. So when you're doing these, I want you to try to figure out why are these a little bit harder than the easier ones that we did first. Ready? All right, first medium balances, sideways stretch and the peg leg. What was the most important thing when you're doing the peg leg? Was it balance, flexibility, or strength? What do you need to have? Balance, because When you take 1 foot away, that's called a base of support. You're only on 1 foot. That's hard to balance. So when you have another foot on the ground, that makes it a little easier. And then when we did the plank, you had 1, 2, 3, 4 bases of support. So that made it really easy to balance. But when you start to take them away, your base of support gets smaller and smaller, and it gets harder and harder to balance, right?
Yes, sir.
If you have a table that has 4 legs, that's really sturdy, right? But if you take one of the legs off the table, what's going to happen to it? It's going to fall down. So when you start taking things away, it gets harder and harder to balance. All right, what about the sideways stretch? What was the thing that we need for that one out of strength, balance, and flexibility? What do you think, Bethany? Flexibility, because you're stretching your body out to the side, so you got to be flexible. All right, next up, sideways plank and the toe touch. Nice job, friends. Have a seat, have a seat. Take a load off your feet. Have a seat, pike position. Have a seat, pike position. Okay, remember, the more you say, the less you play. All right, so that was the last 3. Just to give you a quick reminder, you need to make sure, like we talked about at the beginning of class, you keep your body safe. If there's an activity or a challenge that you don't think you can do safely, should you do it? No. If Coach Landers was doing this balances right now, I would probably not do the split because I can't really do a split very safely. I might try it, but then when I realize that I'm going to hurt myself, I will pick one of the other ones. Okay, that's why I have different choices. You got to keep yourself safe. Does everybody understand? All right. Do you have a question? Easy versus medium. Can anybody raise their hand and tell me what was it about the green and the yellow that made them a little bit different? What was it about the yellow ones that made them a little bit harder? Cole, what do you think?
Because on the yellow, like, you need to have more balance.
On the yellow, you need to have more balance. Yeah, so when you were doing those yellows, you had to have a little bit more flexibility or a little bit more balance or a little bit more strength, because we started to make them a little bit harder by taking away our base of support. Making that base of support smaller made it a little bit more difficult. Make sense? All right, let's talk about the red, which is going to be inverted. So the harder balances we're doing today are called inverted balances. Does anybody know? Raise your hand if you think you know what the word inverted means. Anybody? You think you know what it means, Caden?
I think it means like a difficult way of hard.
You're on the right track. It is more difficult, but that's not what invert means. It is more difficult, but that's not what the word means. Claire? Oh, you're getting very close with sideways. It means upside down, upside down. So when you do an invert, that means you're going opposite the way you normally are. So if you're normally right side up, that would be upside down. So for our inverted balances, you're going to be upside down, which makes it harder because are you used to being upside down? No, you walk around on your feet all day. So then when you flip over the other way, it makes your balance a little bit harder. Please remember, you need to keep your body safe and do only the ones that you're comfortable trying. If you feel like your body starts to hurt or you don't think you can do it safely, then you can go back and do any of the other balances we've been working on. First 2 we're going to do are the candlestick and the split stand. So pick which one you want to try. Raise your hand if you thought the split stand was the hardest one. Raise your hand if you thought the candlestick was the hardest one. All right, remember, to make the balance look good, you got to have extension. That means you have your legs nice and straight. Do you want your legs to be bent? You want to try to get that extension to make it look good. Everybody say stillness. Extension. All right, next 2, the broken candlestick and the bridge.
Yeah!